Hello everybody, this is Rainer Wendt speaking. And we are happy to have a webinar today with Almudena Rodriguez Pardo about DevOps in SAFe, Scaled Agile framework. And during these times, COVID-19, we have of course tried to put everything online, even the courses, but we have quite some experiences with online courses from the past as well, because online courses have so many advantages. No travel needed, no travel time needed, and you can be very casual attending. You don't have setup time. And this is why we use this special situation to have this webinar today. So I think more or less most of the people who have subscribed are in the webinar now. We have 1 minute past 3. And of course, I'm a German. I'm always on time. So let's start with the webinar. Let's start with the presentation by Almudena Rodriguez Pardo.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rainer. Then I will take over. I must share my screen. And that's what I'm going to do now. So coming all the way here and starting my presentation.
Perfect. Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Just need to put it on.
Yeah, now we have
screen.
it.
Yeah, no, perfect.
Excellent. DevOps and DevOps strategy in SAFe. Before I go into SAFe and DevOps, which is the subject for today, I'm going to shortly introduce myself. As you can see, regarding my name, I'm born in Spain, grew up in Spain, went to high school in the States, then studied in Germany, so I've been a bit around. Business agility consultant. I have my own company where I support, consult companies and run courses regarding agile methodologies. I come from the technology. I'm an engineer. I was 22 years in the telecommunications. I worked for 22 years for the company Ericsson in different roles. I've been in Scrum teams for many years. I was also in the waterfall development department before, so I was part of the agile transformation of the company. Very, very interesting times. But I also work in the PMO in the quality area. I was also technical market support engineer. So I had different roles over my life in the telecommunications organization. And 3 years ago, I decided to go my own way and created my own company. I'm also an international speaker. I hold talks like this one here in many forums. It's a very important area to be involved in conferences in order to find out where are we heading for, what's happening, what's coming up. Do we have post-agilismos already, or is it still taking a while? It's still taking a while. So by today, the best thing we have in the market is what we try to bring to our customers. And as I already mentioned, our services are quite wide. We work for a wide variety of sectors, actually, banks, insurances, retailers, small companies, huge organizations, where we support agile transformation. We also support the hiring of agile profiles and any sort of business agility consultancy you might need. So that's enough to my person. Now we're going to go to SAFe, Scale Agile Framework. Before I move on, I would like to know where are you, for the listeners, for the people who I have the honor to join me on a Friday afternoon. Could you please take part? Take part in this poll, Umfrage in German. Actually, put it in German and English, but the webinar was announced in English, so I will stick to that language.
Yeah, the question is if everybody is fine with English, but it seems to be like that. So if if there's somebody or if all people are speaking German, we could actually switch back to German, but I don't see a need currently. Please raise your voice if you want to, because Almudena is lingual at least.
Well, the accent is the same all over the place, so don't worry. We have something in the chat. I don't speak German. Well, I think the whole thing was now solved. We have somebody, so everybody's delighted to hear my English accent. Perfect. So we will stick to that one. And now the poll has been filled by 2/3 of the participants. And I can see, well, several people work already in a safe environment. There are 2 people who have not heard about safe before. So it's quite distributed, but most of you, and also 26% have already visited the SAFE course. So that is quite a good average. I'm going to finish the poll so I have an impression where you guys are, that I don't repeat anything you might know already. Scale Agile framework. Lot of discussions about SAFE, a lot of emotions. You know, so people love it or hate it. Some people really bitch around about SAFE and it doesn't work, it's too heavy, it's not agile. I won't go today in detail in that area, but we have once a year for 13 years already, the tool version 1 runs this State of Agile report, which is a poll and survey worldwide in IT companies. And we are very happy that they've been running this question for so many years, so we can see the tendency, where are we heading for in the Agile methodologies. And what we see is that the Scale Agile framework is the most popular one, because I guess don't know means either I don't know what my company plans, or I don't know what my company is doing, or I don't know how the method is called which we're using, which will be for me very frightening to have people in my company who don't know what we're doing, but it's another subject. And Scrum of Scrums is an excellent way of working for about 100 to 200 people, and then there's something missing there. There's more structure missing. And then you see the rest of them is not really worth mention. So for the people who are scaling, seems that SAFE is giving some support. Let's go 2 steps back. It all began with Scrum. Scrum, beginning of the century, defined the role Scrum Master. For the first time, we had a facilitator place, defined the product owner, and defined the team. Nobody spoke about putting into operations. We were assuming that the customer, the final customer, was standing there in front of the Scrum team and picking up the product increment. That is not the reality in most of the sectors. So what we did with Scrum teams or Kanban teams, we created a bit of agilization of the complete waterfall. We did improve the system, but not systemic. We were doing some excellent iterative incremental development, but filling the backlog was still a huge story from requirements chopping, which is a subject for another webinar. And going into production took as long as before. So we needed to go one step further. And this is where I present Dean Leffingwell, the guy who created SAFE. And he said, okay, it's not just a thing for teams, it's more about business. We need a lean enterprise. We speak now from business agility, organizational agility, end-to-end agility from the very moment that the customer needs something until he gets it. So that we have to change our way of thinking. For the ones who are not familiar with the Scale Agile framework, that is the official definition of SAFE. That is how SAFE defines itself. It doesn't define itself directly as a framework, although the F stands for framework. It calls itself a knowledge base of proven, very important aspect. We can already show success in applying SAFE in several companies and enterprises worldwide. we have principle, practices, competencies, roles in a knowledge base regarding Lean, Agile, and DevOps. Any information on SAFe is open source. So you can go to scaletitleframework.com and you can click all over the graphic and you will get any information you might want. So Scale Agile Framework is open source. And that is Scale Agile Framework for the ones who are not familiar with it. I do accept and I must recognize the first time I saw this, I almost cried. Because I thought, oh my God, so many years agility, and now we are stuck with a huge, complicated framework. But when we see this framework, we have to consider we are supporting companies with 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 employees. So we do need a bit more of rules and artifacts. Making it a bit more prescriptive makes it sometimes a bit better to have an evolution into agility for existing companies. But let's go back to the subject DevOps. I see there are some comments in the chat. You might interrupt anytime with questions if you want. You can post them in the chat or you can post them in the F&A. So before we go into the approach for DevOps in SAFe, I will surely like to try to define DevOps, because DevOps, I think there are 250 definitions of DevOps worldwide. Of course, there is a DevOps.com, but anybody can buy a domain. Buying a domain is 10 euros. So we have for the Agile Manifesto and recognize source of truth. We have for Scrum, the Scrum Guide, which is only 16 pages. But for DevOps for today, we don't have a real main definition of DevOps. So I will say, take anyone you like. My favorite one is this one. Again, the tool version 1 has this definition. I really like it because it includes all the aspects which I personally consider play a role in DevOps, and includes all the aspects which also SAFe points out, and we're going to be seeing the next in the next hour. So it is a practice. It's not a tool. There are no DevOps tools. There are tools which you can apply for DevOps. It's about communication, very important, collaboration. And then later on, we speak about automation. So I really like this definition. If you don't like it, please take another one. So what we're trying to do is to think end-to-end, not only create an agile Scrum island in the middle of the process, but we want at the end of interaction to have a working code, yes, but also the environment it runs into. So we want to be after each interaction in production and not finish the interaction and then wait 6 months until the customers get it. So that will be the ideal world in DevOps. And that was also SAFe foresees. SAFe highlights in this graphic in 2 places DevOps, and I'm going to go a bit closer into it. We speak about the continuous delivery pipeline. This continuous delivery pipeline is very important. It's an end-to-end within a value stream. We have an agile release train. That is the concept of SAFe for a team of teams. These agile teams here, which are the fundamentals of a Scale Agile framework. Scale Agile framework is based on cross-functional agile teams. We will see that a bit later. They come together in a agile release train with around 8 to 10 teams, somewhere around 100 people, and they work value driven. They are part of a value stream, and here comes a very crucial aspect from SAFe. It's not a project, it's a product development. So we change our focus from project oriented to product oriented, and we give end-to-end value to customer continuously. In SAFe, we speak about continuous delivery pipeline with continuous exploration, continuous integration, and continuous deployment. But very important aspect, release on demand. Why? because depending on your sector, and this end part of the train is very much sector dependent. I'm going to give you an example afterwards based on the telecommunications. Completely depends on your sector. Amazon has been showing off with deploying since 2013 every 11 seconds. It's fantastic, but you are deploying on you keep your product. Your customer is an user of your product, but your product is with you. It's very different if you bring your product to the customer and put it into production at their premises. Then maybe the customer doesn't want to have it every 11 seconds. So we want to be ready to release anytime the customer wants it. That's why they speak of release on demand. But let's go back to the continuous delivery pipeline, because there's also some chaos with naming conventions. Most of us agree what continuous integration is. Any code produced should be in a certain trunk, centralized in a master. Latest every night, I would say. Less speaks about every 2 minutes. I tell my customers, please, latest every night. Should everything be pushed? And latest overnight continuous smoke tests and integration and regression tests run over. And the day afterwards, you see, everything we did yesterday didn't work properly. That will be an ideal world where most of the companies are trying to head for. Continuous deployment, continuous delivery. Here we have some, not all sectors agree what is continuous deployment, what is continuous delivery. So this is the way SAFe has this defined. You might see it in another context in a different way, just to mention. What we try here is to define the value stream, to identify the flow, to say from the very beginning that we have an idea until the customer gets into production. What are the steps we take? What is the flow? We measure where are we losing our flow, because we want to create an automation and we want to go into continuous. We cannot be hanging for several days waiting for something to happen. So we have here 999 hours. No way. You have here 696 hours. No way, we cannot afford this if we want for continuous. So the very first thing we do in SAFe is identify the value stream, not the project, the value stream for your product. And what I really like in SAFe, they speak about continuous exploration. We also apply this continuous concept and this flow. Flow is a lean principle. In the exploration phase, it's not about doing a hackathon and then waiting for 6 months until this idea of the hackathon we did, it is put into production. How many times happen that the teams are really working in quite a good pace and creating continuously value, but filling the backlog is a nightmare. And a great idea is found somewhere in the company, but doesn't move through up to the backlog. So this continuous exploration is part of the Agile product management. It's a very, very important issue with also SAFe highlight. It's about creating a continuous pipeline end to end. So we have to identify the flow, the value stream in all the areas, not only how quickly do we integrate, how quickly we deploy. DevOps is also how quickly is an idea into development from the very moment the customer wants something until it gets into the teams and it's developed. It doesn't help to have the greatest teams with a fantastic continuous integration and put right away into production if the idea of the customers takes 6 months until it gets into the backlog. So we have a holistic view, a systemic view in SAFe, which I really like. One further step of DevOps in SAFe is Calmer, C-I-L-M-R. We spoke already about lean flow, about accelerating delivery, securing it gets shortest possible time from idea to production. We also spoke about measuring. We want to have telemetry on everything. But there are several more aspects, and I'm going to go deeper into 2 of them, the culture and the automation. Recovery is also a very important issue. I think Netflix is teaching us all a huge lesson with their recovery strategy through the Netflix monkeys. If you don't know them yet, just go and Google for Netflix monkeys, because an amazing example of a very fantasyful approach how to secure recovery. And I think many of the video conferencing tools in these days are going through some overload situations which were not expected. And of course, the very first thing is how can you recover quickly without the customer suffering from hours from a fallback? If you have a new version in production and it doesn't work, you have to be able within seconds to go back to the earlier version. So that is also part from DevOps, not just putting quickly into production, but quickly out recovering if the going into production for some whatever reason goes wrong. We spoke about automation. So we've mentioned lean flow, measurements, recovery. We have automation. It is not lack of tools, the problem we have out there. I think there are enough tools out in the market and probably many more I didn't have here. So, and many of them are open source. So there is really no excuse not to automate. Yes, there is. Let's take a look at the picture I took at the user conference on advanced automated testing. Funny enough, there was some data shown on some IT testing surveys where we realized that 80% of the testing being done around the world was manual. Even worse, from the money we're spending in tools, not even 3% of the money spent was being spent in tools. So we're spending a huge amount of money in automatic, in manual testing, but we're not buying tools. And this is the point where we say, what the heck are we speaking about DevOps if we're not even planning to buy tools to automate? So automation is DNA at DevOps. When we create this value stream, we have to go one by one in all the steps and see where are we doing manual job, how can we automate it? Where is manual job taking place, how can we automate it? Now, how continuous is continuous? This is also a huge discussion out there in the industry or in different sectors. And you run into fundamentalists, agilists saying, you know, if you don't do it every 11 seconds, that's not continuous. I'll say, well, it depends. Depends how your continuous improvement process is in place. Let's check this press release from Ericsson from 3 years ago, where they mentioned that they were having packet core updates monthly rather than every 6 and 12 months. A real fundamental agilist will say, oh my God, once a month, that's not agile. So, well, if you see the improvement from 12 months, 6 months to monthly, that is quite agile. If we consider that in the telecommunications, going into production means putting a node into the network of your customer, where everybody, thousands of people speaking on the phone, and we take into account that most of the networks are there have a multi-vendor structure. So you might have different nodes from Ericsson, Huawei, Nokia, and whatever vendors you have, which have to communicate with each other.
మాన్యువల్ టెస్టింగ్ 80% చేస్తున్నారు అని చెప్తున్నావా కంపెనీస్ లో?
No, sorry, I was interfere. I didn't ask, was that a question? Okay, I thought there was a question. I'm not sure if I hear properly.
I think Venkata said something, but probably you can repeat it later.
Okay, yeah, because I was interrupted. I couldn't speak anymore. I got a signal. I couldn't speak anymore.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but now that you have been interrupted once, let me pose a question. You said that automation, I understood, kind of daily builds is a precondition for safe. Did I misunderstand this? Is daily really a precondition for it?
Daily is my personal expectation for continuous integration. Continuous integration is central part when the software is produced. That is not, let's put it 3 weeks in your private branch, then it's pushed to the team branch, then it's pushed to the product branch, and later to the master. So that is why I call continuous integration is, from my experience, that you latest every day, you say, Almudena, we push to master every second day. I say, okay. As often as possible, you push to master, centralize for everybody development, and you secure the integration from all the different software developers is run on the same branch, if possible, the master, through regression tests, smoke tests, overload tests for the new functionality and to secure we didn't break anything on the existing. That will be continuous integration, securing the value of new added software. And that's where I personally say, please latest every day.
So it's a hard one, and it goes without saying that this is only possible if you have automated testing, if you have some tools in place. But I don't want to interrupt you, so go ahead.
I mean, if Jenkins is open source, Jenkins is open source. So continuous integration, from my point of view, in the software development nowadays, must. And we don't need to speak about DevOps if we don't have it already in place, or we're not planning to do it as quick as possible.
Yep.
I was speaking about continuous deployment. Continuous deployment, continuous going into production, releasing to customer. And now, a couple of months ago, we had the next press release from Ericsson saying they are actually deploying twice a month in the 5G networks, which is already a huge improvement if we were doing 3 years ago once a month. So this is now about continuous deployment. And here, my experience, what I see out in the industry is very much sector dependent. There are some sectors we don't have strong legal regulations, or where you own your product, like could be Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, the people that your customers are the user of the product, but you still have the product in your server. Where I say, okay, in this case, I will assume you're almost deploying daily. In the telecommunications, we have a huge challenges with the multi-vendor network, and we have a huge challenge. For example, you have standardizations, and maybe all the vendors in the same network didn't keep them. So there you have different challenges, which might drive to this release on demand. So continuous is delivery and continuous deployment. It's very much sector dependent. That is my experience out in the industry. SAFe asks you to go for continuous delivery. That should be the goal. If you're not doing it now, it could be a stake like Ericsson is going step for step forwards. Which steps shall we take to go in this direction, not to follow SAFe continuous delivery pipeline? The first advice I can give you is break the silos. Break the silos, like SAFe foresees that you have teams which work in an Agile release training team of teams. You don't have the development department, you don't have the test department, you don't have the operation department. These silos stop the flow, the value stream. Make sure we work breaking the silos, creating complete different culture. Here we go, we saw in Kalmar model 5 areas. We saw also culture. Creating silos, you create different cultures. That's the reason the first thing we have to go is to create what we call cross-functional teams. These teams have common goals. We cannot create a DevOps culture, a collaboration for the complete value stream if you have KPIs on the development department, KPI on the test department, and KPIs on the production departments. Because mostly the goal of a development department is to create new value for customer. The goals for operations is to secure the quality and the health of the system. So if we don't have common goals, we cannot create a DevOps culture. And this pipeline with SAFe foresee, it's very difficult to bring in the culture of the company. Operation is part of the value stream. You work end to end. Value is there when the customer has it in his hands. We are not finished when the Scrum team finished a sprint. That is not enough. We have to go all the way through the production line. So operations should be part of the team. these cross-functional teams at this point say, well, Almudena, you cannot expect that everybody knows everything. You cannot expect, like any developer can take into production, and you cannot expect as any operator can also develop. We shouldn't have the perfect cross-functional teams where everybody can do everything. That's not the goal. The goal is what we call the T-shape. For the ones who don't know the concept of T-shape, it's about having your specialty. I am a business agility consultant. I'm expert for Agile methodologies. I have several certifications for safe, less. I'm also an innovation leader. I have Management 3.0 certified trainer. That is my specialty. Now I have my T. I can do a bit to the right. I'm also a developer. I've been so many years writing code. I can still do some Python, Perl, C++, Java if you really need it. I also know a bit of standardization in telecommunication. And on the other hand, I'm a junior tester. I was never a great tester, but if you give me some code and I can run Jenkins and I can create some easy tests in Java, that's my T. And for any cross-functional team we create, we want to secure that each and every member had a T and get some knowledge of DevOps, at least gets to understand what are the problems operators face. Same for operators, that they can see what are the problems developers say. So create a common understanding of what we want to do.
So, but Almudena, what I've heard from some people is that they are comfortable to be in a silo. They don't want to become a DevOps, because then they could be addressed or be approached by people with more or less everything. So you can go to a DevOps guy with development, with testing, with operation, with everything. And some people are afraid to be in this position that they are a go-to person for everybody.
I think you said both important. You said people are comfortable. I don't believe it. I don't believe that the 21st century are comfortable in silo. But you said they are afraid of, and that's the point.
Yeah.
That is the point. They are not comfortable in being in a silo. They are afraid that leaving the silo would drive too. So that means we don't have a safe environment. And here we go back to the C from culture. If you want to create a DevOps strategy, you need a safe environment. You have to allow the people to fail. And you cannot expect that to create our, just a moment, I want DevOps culture and the delivery pipeline. The teams, the very first thing they need is a safe environment, and we cannot expect that everybody can do everything. That's the reason I mentioned the T-shape, that you have your main area where you're an expert in, and you support, understand. Like I mentioned, I was a junior tester in my team. Please never hire me as a tester. You will have a problem. But if you have some simple tests with copy and paste, which any idiot could do, I can probably support you. Yeah. So that is the important aspect. We still have the masters for several areas, but they work together for a common goal. And this common goal is continuous delivery. Yeah. My job is not finished when I push my code. I'm a developer, I push my code, it's over. When is it getting to the customer? I don't know. That's not my job. My job is to bring value to customer. And that's the goal of the complete team. And this Agile team is the basic unit of an Agile release train. Say, foresee that 8 to 10 teams, depending on the number of people and some other roles together, take care together of this. Going into production is not that the job of the developer is finishing integration and then deployment is the business of the operators. That's not the case. You're never going to reach a DevOps culture if we don't work cross-functional. So most of what I said is proven, and we cannot sit around and wait for the perfect DevOps methodology to show up, or we say, okay, well, DevOps is not really working with Scrum and Agile. Let's wait until something better comes into the market. Don't wait too long. It's not the need of better methodologies, not the need of better tools. It's not that DevOps is not working because Jenkins is not good enough. So we already have empirical evidence that things can work. It is more about the mindset. It's about the behavior of executives. It's what you mentioned, people being afraid of moving out of their silos because it could have consequences. That's for me a management behavior behind, because the role of any manager, of any executive, is creating a safe environment. I have to have an environment where people are safe. So that is the job of any management. So it is more of the mindset of some managers thinking we buy some tools and with this we've solved the problem. We are seeing very complex problems regarding DevOps. I have a company, you have sectors and countries where manual testing is CapEx, but automated testing is OpEx. So for these cases, you even need the financial department and the tax advisor to join you in the DevOps strategy. So I have companies avoiding automation because then it would be OpEx. So those are the problems where we need executives really to join, and not just as buy a tool, or tell to the people, run the DevOps course with Mrs. Rodriguez, and then please implement it, as simple as that. So why do we need now a DevOps strategy? Why is SAFe strongly going into DevOps? It's not because we did everything wrong, and now we're gonna do right. It's because what got us here won't take us any further. It was perfectly fine to work without much automation in the 90s. We cannot afford it anymore. We need velocity. And code is getting more and more complex. So we need a lot of automation to secure quality. We see now how many tools out there are completely overloaded through the change of behavior what this coronavirus has driven. People are ordering a lot of groceries online. The groceries portals were not prepared for such an overload. So suddenly they thought they had automation, not enough. So we have to think about changing our way of working and the way we use our tools and our strategies, not because what we were doing was not good enough. It's because we won't take it any farther. Before I move to questions and answers, and I will be very happy to take any questions you might have, I would like to invite you next year to our business analysis day in Frankfurt, which is going to be exactly in our 12 and a half months, I will say. We'll be very happy to have you there. We'll be also running their SAFe workshop, but that's very far away. If you want to see us earlier, we have with masVenta, as Rainer already mentioned, we have beginning of June an online SAFe certification due to the conditions out there, the high degree of complexity which the coronavirus has driven. We have permission from the SAFe organization for the next couple of months to run the courses online. So that's what we're offering here. We'll be very happy to have you on board. And I will say thank you very much for listening to me. It was a pleasure to be here with you. And I will be happy to take any questions you may have.
Yes, so please let me know your questions. There are a couple of thank you entries. So one remark from my side is you said that tools are kind of indispensable for automatic testing. Okay, this we have worked out, but I think it's not just tools. You know, there's some organizational change as well needed to implement automated testing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the reason SAFe speak about this model CALMR, which is not from SAFe actually. It comes from Jeff Hummel. And the C is for culture. The A is for automation. Yes, but the C is for culture. So only automation won't solve your problem, definitely. So there are several perspectives we have is here in the graphic, which we have to take into consideration. The flow, we already spoke about the flow. There's no point on creating automation, trying to change the culture if we have stop and go situations in our product production. So we need the value stream which flows. We need to measure. We saw this value stream mapping where we measure cycle time, process time, and you need to have a recovery strategy. So those are the 5 factors which play a role for a DevOps strategy.
Yes. Okay, so any more questions? I don't see any more questions. You can see the panel as well, Almudena, I think.
Yeah,
So
I can see, thank you, I can see it.
I would like to take over the screen to tell something about our, let's say, intermediate courses which we offer during the Corona crisis. So please be aware that we have 2 courses now which are announced for April, May, and June. Actually, in April, May, we have an online certification preparation for the CBAP, for the Certified Business Analysis Professional. And there are some places left, so please go to this link and see whether this is by using English materials, because we think that this is better, because the exam will be in English. And yeah, the SAFE course in June, as Almudena announced, is something which is done in German as well, but it depends. If you want, if the team decides, then, as we said before, Almudena can switch seamlessly, and so I can as well. But mostly this CBAP preparation course is in German, and the SAFE course is planned in German as well, but can be done in English if all the participants agree. So we have normally, as with the webinars, we have video recordings. And the good point is, if you attend a session, we usually have sessions of 4 or 5 hours with many breaks in between. But if you are not concentrating, or if you are away for a couple of minutes, that's not a problem. You can simply fetch the video, go back to the parts and see what you have missed. And this is a very good learning style, because you are not only attending the session itself, you are later on working on your own, and you are always taking the video to see what has been taught by the trainers. So I think we have some advantages with the online trainings, even that this is a very, let's say, worst time now. So I haven't got any more questions, just a couple of thank you entries. And so let me close the webinar by saying a big thank you to Almudena. So it was a very interesting presentation, and what I saw is that DevOps is not only a set of rules. DevOps is a phase, is a belief. You need to believe in DevOps, and the organization needs to believe in DevOps, and that's a culture change, isn't it?
Finally.
Yeah. Yes, and is it possible to get the slides? Somebody is asking, Almudena, are we going to provide the PDF?
I can send you the PDF. Yes, that's
okay. If you send me the PDF or a link to the PDF, then I will, let's say, mail after to all participants where the link is for the video and the link to the slides. So finally, let me say one thing before I give the closing word to Almudena. Finally, from my side, stay healthy, keep safe, and don't become infected by COVID-19. Almudena.
So my side, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, I will be delighted to see you in our course if you join, or at the conference next year. Thank you.
Yes, perfect.
Have a nice weekend.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.